He threw the receipt at me like it was trash. It fluttered onto the kitchen counter, landing beside my coffee mug. I still remember the way the steam fogged the corner of that paper. The words "Four Seasons Resort, dinner for two, $487.60, staring back at me like a slap. When I looked up, Jake wasn't even ashamed. He just leaned against the fridge, arms folded, jaw tight. "I told you," he said coldly. "You're way too controlling. That's why I didn't tell you." My hands were trembling. Not from anger yet, from disbelief. "Controlling?" I asked. "Jake, that's my money. The money I've been saving for the down payment." He rolled his eyes. "Our money, Sarah. Our money. I just wanted to have a nice evening. You make everything sound like a crime." That was the moment I realized something inside me had snapped. You know that feeling when your stomach drops, like your body understands betrayal before your mind does? That's how it felt. My throat burned, my fingers went numb. I remember the fridge humming in the background, the clock ticking, the faint smell of burnt toast from that morning. Every detail got burned into my memory, because in that moment, I saw the man I thought I knew turn into a stranger. Jake and I had been together for 5 years, married for 2. I met him when I was 23, just a quiet, overly ambitious girl with a small apartment and a dream to save enough to buy a house before 30. He was charming, funny, and confident, the kind of man who made you feel seen. When we got married, I was the one with a stable job. He was starting his business, which, for the first year, meant endless ideas and zero income. I didn't mind. I believed in him. I paid the bills, skipped vacations, and even sold my car to put more into our joint savings. It wasn't really joint. It was mine. I just didn't know it was his playground. That receipt wasn't an accident. It wasn't something he forgot to hide. He wanted me to see it. Because when I finally asked about our savings, after noticing our account was almost empty, he turned it around on me. "You don't trust me," he said. "That's your problem." And you know what's sad? I almost believed him. I actually started questioning myself, wondering if I'd become paranoid, or nagging, or controlling, like he said. That's how emotional manipulation works. It's slow, it's subtle, and it makes you apologize for someone else's lies. Later that night, he stormed out after another argument, slammed the door so hard the frame shook. I sat there on the kitchen floor, holding that stupid receipt, tears falling on the ink until it smudged. $487.60. That's what it cost me to finally admit I didn't know my own husband anymore. I remember staring at our wedding photo on the counter, the one where he was kissing my forehead, and everyone said we looked perfect. My heart clenched so hard it hurt. I whispered, "Why, Jake?" Like saying it aloud might make the truth sound less cruel. But the truth doesn't care if you whisper or scream. 2 days later, I got my answer, not from him, but from a text message that wasn't meant for me. He'd left his phone on the couch while showering. It buzzed. Normally, I never checked his phone, but something in me, that quiet, broken part that still wanted clarity, picked it up. The message was from someone named Lila. It read, "I can't stop thinking about last night. You look so handsome in that blue shirt. Thank you for the surprise dinner." My heart actually stopped for a second. Then I scrolled up, dozens of messages, photos, plans. The hotel, the dinner, the gifts, all with my savings. I didn't cry that time. I just sat there cold, empty, and silent. That was the night I learned how betrayal feels, not fiery or loud, but like a slow drowning. You don't even realize you're out of air until it's too late. And as his phone buzzed again, another heart emoji lighting up the screen, I realized something else. I wasn't the same woman anymore. I wasn't the naive, forgiving wife he could gaslight. Not after this. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing. He was going to regret underestimating me. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the couch with his phone in my hand, staring at the screen like it was a ticking bomb. Every new message from Lila felt like another slap. "I miss you already. When can we go there again? You're amazing, Jake. Don't let her stress you out." Her. That was me. The wife paying for their little fairy tale. The irony burned. I wanted to scream, throw the phone, wake him up and demand answers. But something stopped me. It was this strange, sharp calm that took over, like my body refused to waste another ounce of emotion on him. That's when I realized this wasn't going to end with tears. When Jake walked out of the bathroom, towel around his neck, humming like nothing was wrong, I felt something shift in me. My voice sounded eerily steady when I said, "You left your phone unlocked." He froze. Then his expression changed, not fear, not guilt, just calculation. "Did you go through it?" he asked. I nodded. I saw everything. He exhaled sharply, tossed the towel aside, and said, "You're unbelievable, Sarah. Snooping through my phone now? I told you your control issues are getting worse." Control issues. He said it again, like it was my flaw, like I'd forced him into someone else's bed. I laughed, and it scared even me, because it wasn't bitter or broken. It was hollow. "You used my money," I said slowly, "to impress another woman. You lied. You drained our savings. And you're telling me I'm the problem?" He stepped closer. "You wouldn't understand. I just needed space, excitement, something you don't give anymore." That was the first time I looked him dead in the eye and saw the man he truly was, selfish, cowardly, and convinced he was untouchable. He left that night, packed a bag and slammed the door again. Said he needed to clear his head. I didn't stop him. I didn't even ask where he was going, because I already knew to her. The next morning, I made myself a cup of coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. My heart was pounding, but my mind had never been clearer. If he thought he could spend my money to build his fantasy, then I was going to show him what reality felt like. The first thing I did was call the bank. We had a joint savings account, but the primary holder, me, still had authority. I reported unauthorized withdrawals and asked for a transaction audit. The woman on the phone was polite, almost sympathetic, as she listed out every expense: the resort, the jewelry store, a perfume boutique, a luxury rental car service. By the time she was done, the total was nearly $8,000. $8,000. That was my down payment, my future gone. "Would you like to file a formal complaint, ma'am?" she asked gently. "Yes," I said, my voice calm and firm. "And freeze the account." That weekend, I started collecting everything: screenshots of his messages, bank records, even a copy of the hotel bill that he'd stupidly forwarded to our shared email. Every detail, every lie, I archived it all. Not out of obsession, out of purpose. Because when you're made to feel crazy long enough, proof becomes your weapon. I didn't tell anyone yet. Not my friends, not my parents. They adored Jake. They thought we were the perfect couple. I wasn't ready to watch their faces change when I told them the truth. But I did confide in one person, Mia, my coworker. She'd been through a messy divorce a few years ago. When I told her everything, she didn't gasp or pity me. She just nodded slowly and said, "You're not crazy. And you're not done yet, are you?" I shook my head. Not even close. For the next 2 weeks, I played the part, the quiet, heartbroken wife trying to work things out. I texted him politely, kept my distance, even apologized once or twice when he accused me of being cold. Let him think I was weak. Let him think I was waiting. Meanwhile, I tracked everything: his Instagram check-ins, her public posts, every little breadcrumb they left online. I didn't comment or react. I just watched. Because sometimes the best revenge starts with silence. And one night, as I scrolled through Lila's page, I found something that made my breath catch: a photo of her at the resort again. Same place, same spot, but this time Jake wasn't in it. The caption read, "When your man says he's finally leaving his wife." That was all I needed to see. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was humiliation. He wasn't hiding it. He was rewriting our story, painting me as the bitter, controlling wife while he played the poor, misunderstood lover. That was the night I stopped crying altogether. I wasn't going to beg for closure anymore. I was going to create it. And I already knew exactly where to start. The morning after I saw that post, I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. No mascara. No smile. Just swollen eyes and a calm that didn't belong to the old me. I wasn't Sarah, the wife begging for honesty anymore. I was someone else now. Someone quietly dangerous. I called in sick at work, though I wasn't sick. I just needed space to think, to plan. I remember sitting at my dining table, notebook open, making a list like I used to do for everything. Only this time, the goal wasn't saving money or planning a trip. It was saving myself. Step 1, gather proof. Step 2, protect what's left. Step 3, make him feel it. I didn't want to destroy him, not yet. I wanted him to feel the same confusion, the same helplessness he'd left me drowning in. So I started small. Jake was still coming by the apartment every few days, mostly to grab things or to talk, as he called it. What he really wanted was to make sure I wasn't moving on. He'd stand at the door, pretending to care, while checking if I looked miserable enough for his ego. I played along. I made sure my hair was messy, my eyes red, my voice soft. I let him believe I was broken. And while he talked about needing time apart, I quietly placed my phone on record and let him ramble. Every lie, every promise, every denial, all captured. Then came the finances. I went through every shared account, card, and subscription. I found one he'd opened behind my back, using my credit to fund his so-called business. I contacted the bank, explained the unauthorized use, and began the dispute process. The woman on the line said, "It'll take a few weeks to investigate." That was fine. I had time. I wasn't in a hurry. Revenge never should be. Around that time, Jake texted me one night. "I think we should meet and talk. I don't like how distant you've become." I stared at the message, laughed quietly, and typed back, "Sure. Tomorrow after work?" He agreed. But before I went, I created a new email address, one he didn't know existed. Then, using that, I sent every screenshot and bank record I had to myself as backup. You learn fast when someone tries to erase your future. You start making digital copies of your pain. The next evening, we met at a quiet cafe near his gym. He looked good, too good. Like betrayal had improved his skin. I noticed the new watch on his wrist. I knew exactly where it came from. He smiled like nothing had happened. "You look better," he said, sipping his coffee. "Trying," I replied. Then he leaned in. "Look, Sarah, you know I didn't mean to hurt you. Things just got complicated." I wasn't happy. It's funny how people use the word complicated when they mean selfish. I nodded slowly. "I understand." He relaxed, thinking I was forgiving him. That's when I reached into my purse and placed a small envelope on the table. "What's that?" he asked. "Copies," I said, "of your messages. And our bank statement." His smile vanished. "Why would you?" "Just in case." I cut him off. In case anything happens to my credit, my job, or my name. He tried to laugh it off. "You wouldn't." "Jake," I said quietly, "I already did." That was the first time I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Not guilt, fear. And it felt good. I left without another word. He didn't follow me. Maybe he finally realized I wasn't bluffing. That night, I sat in my car for an hour, parked outside our old apartment, just breathing. The city lights blurred through my tears, and I whispered, "You're not done yet." Because this wasn't justice. Not yet. This was just the warning shot. Over the next week, I kept tracking him. I didn't hack or stalk, just observed what he willingly shared. His life was becoming sloppier. Late-night posts, new outfits, dinner check-ins with friends. He was showing off again, maybe to prove something to himself. But what he didn't know was that I'd already spoken to his landlord. Since my name was still on the lease for his office space, I filed a formal termination notice. He had 30 days to vacate or renew, and the renewal required both signatures. His business, or whatever illusion of one he had, was about to lose its home. By the time the 30 days ended, Jake came knocking at my door again. It was raining, and he looked desperate. "You had no right," he shouted. "You're ruining everything." I stared at him calmly. "You ruined us, Jake." "I'm just cleaning up the mess." He stepped closer, wet hair sticking to his forehead, voice breaking. "You don't know what you're doing." "Oh, I do," I said. "I'm finally doing what I should have done the first time you lied. Take my power back." He didn't respond. He just stared at me, realizing he'd lost control. Then, for the first time, he walked away without slamming the door. But I wasn't celebrating yet. Something told me this wasn't over. Not until I faced her too. And when I finally did, the game changed entirely. It happened by accident, or maybe fate. I was at the mall, walking past the perfume section, when I saw her. Lila. She was even wearing the same perfume receipt Jake had bought. The one that had first made my stomach turn. Sweet, sugary, and expensive. She laughed too loudly, tossing her hair, phone in hand. And right there, I saw his name flash across her screen. Jake. My body froze before my mind could react. I wasn't ready, not emotionally. I thought I'd feel rage or jealousy, but instead, I felt this strange detachment, like I was watching a movie I'd already seen too many times. I didn't approach her. Not yet. Instead, I followed. Quietly. She walked into a cafe, ordered a smoothie, and sat down alone. For 10 minutes, she scrolled through her phone, smiling at whatever he was sending. Then she called him. "Hey, baby," she said softly, twirling her straw. "Yeah, I saw your message. She's still texting you? I told you she's obsessed. You need to block her, Jake. She's dangerous. Dangerous." I swear, my hands actually shook. This woman, this stranger, was painting me as the problem. The wife he stole from, the one who paid for their meals, was now the crazy ex. I felt something dark rise in my chest, not hatred, not sadness. Just clarity. That was the moment I decided. She was going to see the truth, whether she liked it or not. I waited 3 days. Then I sent her a message. "Hi, Lila. This is Sarah, Jake's wife. Or ex-wife, depending on what he's told you. I think we should talk." It was risky. I knew she might ignore me, or worse, tell him. But to my surprise, she replied within minutes. "I don't know what you're talking about. Jake said you were separated." Classic. "Then you won't mind if I send you proof?" I wrote back. I attached screenshots, wedding photos, bank transfers, texts, the hotel bill. I didn't insult her. I didn't even explain. I just let the evidence speak. She didn't respond for hours. Then finally, "I didn't know. I swear. He told me you were over. He said you were crazy and controlling." There it was again. Controlling. The same word he used to cage me. The next day, she called me. Her voice shook. "He lied to me too, Sarah. He said you drained his accounts. He said you were blackmailing him." I almost laughed. "If he's lying to both of us," I said, "maybe we should stop believing him." There was silence. Then, almost reluctantly, she whispered, "What do you want me to do?" I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. "Nothing," I said. "Just stop helping him lie." A week later, Jake showed up again, this time furious. "You talked to her," he yelled. I didn't even flinch. "She reached out to me," I said, stirring my tea. "You're ruining my life," he shouted. "Funny," I said quietly. "You said the same thing when I found out you used my money. Seems like a pattern." He threw his hands up. "You don't understand what's happening right now." I looked at him and said, "Oh, I do. You're finally losing control of your story." He didn't have an answer for that. By then, Lila had blocked him. She texted me one last time. He showed up at my place, begging me to believe him. I told him to leave. "I'm done." And just like that, the image he'd built, the charming, misunderstood man, began to crumble. He lost his business space, his affair, and his credibility all within weeks. But I still didn't feel peace. Not yet. Because even after all of that, part of me was still trapped in the echo of his manipulation. That voice saying you're overreacting, you're controlling, it's your fault. So, I decided to confront the last person who needed to hear the truth, his family. They'd always adored him. His mother, especially, treated me like an outsider. The strict wife, who didn't let her son be free. I'd kept quiet out of respect. But silence had cost me enough. I called her one evening and said calmly, "I thought you should know where your son's rent money really came from. It wasn't his business. It was mine." There was a pause, then a whisper. "What do you mean?" I sent her the same receipts, the same screenshots. She didn't reply after that. But 2 days later, Jake texted me. "You didn't have to drag my family into this. You're cruel." Cruel. That word made me laugh out loud. Because if standing up for myself made me cruel, then I was done being kind. The next day, I transferred the last of the joint funds into my personal account. Not a dollar more would ever leave my name. And for the first time in months, I slept, deeply, dreamlessly, peacefully. Because now, I wasn't fighting to prove what he did. I was fighting to rebuild what I'd almost lost, myself. But life has a strange sense of timing. Just when I thought the storm was finally over, Jake did something that crossed every remaining line. He called me from a new number. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. His voice was calm, too calm. "Sarah," he said, "I think we should meet. I need to explain what's been happening." Something about his tone made my stomach twist. Not the same arrogant confidence I was used to. There was tension behind it. I could hear the sound of cars in the background. Maybe he was driving. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met in a public park near my office the next evening. He looked exhausted, unshaven, thinner, jittery. The man who once strutted around with expensive cologne and smug charm now looked like he'd aged 10 years. "I lost everything," he said as soon as we sat down. "My clients backed out, my mom won't talk to me, and Lila's threatening to post things online." I stared at him. Things. She said she has screenshots, he muttered. She's saying I lied about being divorced. She might tell everyone I used your money. If that happens, I'm finished. I wanted to laugh. You did lie, Jake. You did use my money. What exactly do you expect me to do about it? His eyes darted to mine. You always wanted control, didn't you? He snapped. Even now, when I'm down, you need to win. There it was again. The same word, control. It was his shield. Every time I held him accountable, he'd twist it back onto me. But this time, I didn't flinch. No, Jake, I said quietly. I just stopped letting you use me. He clenched his jaw. I thought you'd be better than this. I am, I said. That's why I'm done here. I stood up to leave, but he grabbed my wrist, not hard, but enough to stop me. Sarah, please. I'm serious. She's threatening me. If she posts those messages, my job's gone. You can talk to her, right? Tell her not to. For a second, I just stared at him. You want me to save you from the woman you cheated with? I just need time, he whispered. You don't understand how fast this spiraled. I pulled my hand away. No, Jake. You don't understand how fast I stopped caring. That was the last thing I said before walking off. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 nights later, I woke up to my phone buzzing. Dozens of messages. Unknown numbers. Comments on my social media posts, some calling me a liar, others saying, karma hits hard. I clicked one link and felt my blood run cold. Lila had posted screenshots, but not all of them. She'd cropped and twisted them to make it look like I was the one who'd ruined Jake's business, that I'd stolen money, that I was some vengeful ex harassing them both. It was calculated, cruel, and effective. Within hours, mutual friends started messaging me, awkward, careful questions. Hey, Sarah, is everything okay? Did you really do all that? I sat there in bed, heart racing, as humiliation burned through me. After everything, they were still controlling the story. For a moment, I thought about posting proof, all the screenshots, all the records. But I stopped, because this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about reclaiming my narrative. I reached out to my friend Mia again. She worked in marketing, understood public image better than anyone I knew. I told her everything. She listened quietly, then said, if they're trying to ruin your name, don't fight them with theirs. Build your own truth louder. It sounded cryptic at first, but she explained. Don't argue. Don't explain. Just show who you are now without him. Start over publicly. Calm, professional, confident. They'll fall apart trying to make noise while you stay steady. That hit something deep inside me. So I did it. I deactivated my old accounts. Opened new ones. Updated my LinkedIn. Posted about my work, about rebuilding. I didn't mention Jake. Not once. Just started fresh. Within days, I noticed something strange. The attention shifted. People moved on. The lies stopped spreading because there was nothing to feed on. Meanwhile, Lila and Jake's story kept crumbling. Their public posts got nastier, contradictory. Eventually, one of her friends, maybe out of guilt, messaged me privately, confirming what I already suspected. Jake had been seeing another woman behind Lila's back too. That was the last domino. Lila deleted everything a week later. Jake's number stopped working. Word got around he'd left the city. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post anything. I just sat on my balcony one night, sipping tea, watching the city lights flicker, and realized I felt free. For months, I'd been waiting for an apology, a confession, a moment of justice. But the truth was, I didn't need any of that. What I needed was peace. And peace didn't come from destroying him. It came from rebuilding myself. I moved into a smaller apartment, started saving again, this time in an account only I could access. I kept my circle small. I worked hard, learned to trust my instincts again. Sometimes late at night, I'd still think about him, not with love, but with clarity. I realized he hadn't just stolen money. He'd stolen the version of me that believed love meant sacrifice without boundaries. I'd never let that happen again. I lost him, but I found myself. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Let me know below. And don't forget to follow for more real stories like this. The weeks that followed felt strangely quiet. It was like my life had finally exhaled after holding its breath for too long. I went to work, came home, cooked simple meals, and slept through the night for the first time in months. There were no late-night fights, no lies to decode, no pit in my stomach wondering what Jake was hiding this time. Still, some mornings I'd wake up and instinctively reach for my phone, half expecting his name to flash on the screen. It didn't. Not once. It was like he'd evaporated from existence. But silence has its own weight. and I'd soon learn that his absence didn't mean he was gone for good. One Sunday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to. A deep male voice said, "Is this Sarah Miller?" I hesitated. "Yes, this is Detective Owens from the Financial Crimes Division. We're investigating a report of identity theft connected to a Jake Thompson. Do you know him?" My chest went cold. "He's my ex-husband," I said quietly. He paused. "Ex-husband? That makes sense. We have several accounts and credit applications in your name. We just need to confirm if you authorized them." I closed my eyes. "No," I whispered. "I didn't." That night, I sat on my couch, documents spread out in front of me, letters, bank statements, and copies of credit applications with my forged signature. He had gone further than I ever imagined. Even after losing everything, he'd tried to drag me down with him. I didn't cry this time. I didn't panic either. I just started writing down every date, every transaction, every piece of evidence I could find. My hands were steady, my breathing calm. The same woman who once begged him to tell the truth was now methodically building a case that could end him. It took months. The detectives were patient and thorough. They traced the digital signatures, the IP addresses, the fake business registrations he'd created using my information. Apparently, he'd been applying for short-term loans under my name. Not huge amounts, just enough to stay unnoticed for a while. But eventually the pattern caught up. When they finally had enough, I was called to sign the formal statement. The officer looked at me and said, "You know this will lead to his arrest, right?" "I know," I said. He made his choices. A few weeks later, they picked him up in another city. I didn't go to court. I didn't need to see him in handcuffs to feel vindicated. The day I got the confirmation letter from the bank, stating my credit had been cleared of all fraud, I made myself a small celebration dinner. Just me, a glass of wine, and silence. That was when I truly understood what closure feels like. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. It's quiet, steady, and a little sad. Because closure isn't about revenge. It's about finally being okay with never getting an apology. A few months later, I met someone new. Not romantically, just a friend, someone from work who made me laugh again. I was cautious at first, almost too careful, but I noticed something different in myself. I no longer tried to fix people. I no longer ignored the small warning signs. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty for putting myself first. Sometimes I still think about how it all began. That morning with the receipt, the steam rising from my coffee, the way the ink blurred under my tears. I used to wish I'd never seen it, that maybe ignorance would have kept me happy. But now I know that receipt saved me. It forced me to open my eyes. Jake taught me how dangerous blind love can be, but he also taught me that power comes quietly, in moments when you choose not to break. I rebuilt everything he tried to take, my finances, my confidence, my peace. And every time I check my bank account now, I smile, not because of the number, but because it's mine. Every cent, every ounce of strength, earned the hard way. A year has passed since everything fell apart. I don't think about him every day anymore. But sometimes, when I'm driving home from work and a certain song plays, one that used to fill our apartment, I catch myself remembering the woman I was back then. The one who apologized for things she didn't do. The one who thought love meant endurance. The one who mistook manipulation for passion. That version of me is gone. But she left behind pieces that I'm still learning to honor. Her loyalty, her hope, her strength to start again. Because surviving something like that changes you in ways no one warns you about. You don't just move on. You rebuild from the bones of who you used to be. My apartment now is small, but it's mine. Every wall, every lamp, every piece of furniture has a story that begins and ends with me. I don't hide receipts anymore. I don't ask permission before I buy a new chair or take a weekend trip. Freedom, I've learned, isn't about money or revenge. It's about not having to explain your choices to someone who only wanted control. Last week, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. I opened it carefully, and my hands went cold when I saw his handwriting. It was a letter from Jake. Just one page. He said he was sorry. Said prison had changed him, that he realized what he'd done, and that he hoped one day I'd forgive him. I read it once, then again, and then I folded it neatly, placed it back in the envelope, and slid it into a drawer. Not out of anger, not even out of pain. Just acceptance. I didn't need to forgive him to feel free. I just needed to stop letting his actions define me. That night, I went for a walk. It was cool, the kind of evening where the air feels like a clean slate. I watched the lights flicker across shop windows and realized that for the first time in years, my life was quiet, not empty, but peaceful. I could finally breathe without waiting for something to go wrong. I think the hardest part of healing is realizing there's no dramatic ending. No final confrontation, no perfect revenge, no grand apology that makes it all better. The world doesn't hand you justice neatly wrapped. You have to make peace with what you'll never get back, and choose to grow anyway. Sometimes people ask me if I'd ever love again. I don't know. Maybe one day. But if I do, it won't be the way I used to. I won't ignore the small discomforts or silence my intuition for the sake of keeping peace. I won't hand over my trust like it's proof of loyalty. I'll build it slowly, carefully, like a house I never want to see burned down again. I used to think revenge meant making him suffer. But real revenge, I've learned, is being genuinely happy after someone tried to destroy you. It's waking up and realizing you don't even wish them pain, because they're no longer worth the energy. There's a photo of me now, taken by Mia on my birthday last month. I'm laughing, really laughing, with my hair flying across my face and a sparkler in my hand. She said, "You look like someone who finally knows who she is." I think she's right. I don't look for closure anymore. I live it. Every morning I wake up, make my own coffee, and smile at the quiet. That's my closure. That's my victory. After the court papers were signed and the case was finally over, I remember walking out of the building into a heavy drizzle. It wasn't raining hard, just enough to blur the city lights and make everything look softer. I didn't have an umbrella, but I didn't care. For months, I'd carried a kind of weight that no one could see, and that day it started to lift quietly, without ceremony. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post anything. I just went home, made tea, and sat on the floor of my living room. It was strange how empty the silence felt. Not painful anymore, just unfamiliar. I realized I'd been running on survival mode for so long that peace almost felt like a void. The next morning, I woke up and opened the curtains. Sunlight spilled across the room, catching on the dust particles in the air, and for a second I thought, this is what freedom looks like, messy, quiet, and completely mine. The months that followed were a blur of rebuilding. I took extra shifts at work, applied for a small apartment closer to my office, and slowly started piecing together a new rhythm. I deleted old messages, cleaned out drawers, sold furniture that reminded me of him. Every act, no matter how small, felt like reclaiming a part of myself. One evening, while sorting through old photos, I found a picture of us on our wedding day. I almost threw it out, but something stopped me. Instead, I placed it face down in a box and labeled it past life. Not to erase it, but to remind myself I'd survived it. There were days I missed the idea of him. Not the real Jake, but the version I thought existed. I'd catch myself thinking about the mornings he used to make coffee, the way he'd rest his hand on my shoulder, the sound of his laughter before everything turned bitter. It was confusing, mourning someone who was still alive, but that's the truth of it. You don't just lose a person, you lose the future you imagined with them. Mia helped a lot. She never told me to move on or forgive. She'd just listen, sometimes pour me wine, and remind me that healing wasn't linear. She'd say, "You'll wake up one day and realize you didn't think about him at all. That's when you'll know you've really healed." And she was right. That day did come, slowly, without any big revelation. I remember walking through a market one afternoon, picking out flowers for my new place, when I suddenly realized it had been weeks since his name had crossed my mind. No anger, no longing, no guilt, just nothing. It startled me how ordinary that moment was, how powerful. I began doing things just for me, evening walks, weekend classes, cooking meals I used to love. I even started keeping a small jar on my shelf labeled Peace Fund. Every time I resisted the urge to check his social media or reread an old text, I dropped $1 in it. It sounds silly, but it worked. The jar filled up faster than I expected. Sometimes when I think back to the woman I used to be, the one begging for honesty, defending him to everyone, I don't feel pity for her anymore. I feel gratitude. She was the one who kept going even when her world collapsed. She was the reason I'm still here, stronger, softer, but unbreakable. Life didn't magically get easier, but it became mine again. And that was enough. By the time a full year passed, I no longer recognized the woman who once cried over that hotel receipt. She'd grown into someone who could look at pain without flinching. Someone who no longer needed revenge to feel powerful. Just peace. It's strange how healing sneaks up on you. One day you're still counting the losses, still replaying every argument in your head, and then suddenly you're not. The pain doesn't disappear, it just stops leading the way. I was at the grocery store last week, standing in line behind a couple arguing over which pasta to buy. The man rolled his eyes and muttered something about how she was too picky. She laughed, grabbed both boxes, and said, "Then we'll have both." He laughed too. It was small, ordinary, but it hit me harder than I expected. I realized I didn't envy them. I just understood what it meant to choose peace, to fight without cruelty, to stay without control. When I got home that night, I pulled out my old savings journal, the one Jake used to mock me for keeping. The pages were still neat, the numbers written in blue ink. I started a new page at the back, titled My Life Fund. And this time, instead of listing goals like house down payment or vacation, I wrote things like therapy, travel, time off, a new language. It wasn't about security anymore. It was about living, really living for myself. Mia came over a few nights later. We sat on the floor, eating takeout and watching an old movie. She looked at me and said, "You know, you're glowing lately." I laughed. Maybe that's what happens when you stop trying to fix what's already broken. She nodded. Or maybe it's what happens when you realize you were never the problem. That stuck with me. For years, I let his words, controlling, cold, ungrateful, echo in my mind. But somewhere along the way, I'd learned to replace them with my own voice. A voice that says, "You were kind. You were patient. You deserved better." Jake is just a shadow now, a story I once lived through. I don't hate him anymore. I don't love him either. I simply don't feel anything when I think of him. And that, to me, is the purest kind of freedom. Sometimes people ask why I tell my story. Why dig it all up again when I've already moved on? The answer's simple, because somewhere out there, someone's still sitting on their kitchen floor, holding a receipt, wondering how love turned into a weapon. And if my story helps her stand up, breathe, and take her power back, then every painful detail was worth sharing. I used to believe heartbreak was the end of a chapter. Now I know it's just the start of becoming someone stronger. Someone who doesn't break quietly. Someone who rebuilds louder. I'm still learning, still healing, still growing. But I'm free. Completely, quietly, finally free.